Hey guys, it's Miss Katz, and today we're going to work on solving some of the problems that were on the homework for tonight. I was asked to post a video, so here it is. We're going to start on the front page. This is what I call a scaffolded option. So what it basically does is it walks you through all the steps that you need to solve these problems. So when you get on the back and you don't have all the scaffolding, you still know that you need to do all of these things. So we'll start with the first question, and notice that they're labeled. So basically what we did was we took this big figure. We don't have the area of a pentagon. We don't have a formula for that. But we do have the formula for an area of a rectangle and the area of a triangle, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to break this big shape up into two parts. And notice that they're already labeled for us, A and B, okay? And notice up here in our chart, we're going to find the area of little a, so sub A. That just helps you remember that we're doing the area of that part. And area sub B means we're taking the area of part B. So if you look at A is a triangle. And the formula for the area of a triangle is the area of a triangle equals 1/2 the base times the height. And remember, the order doesn't matter here because multiplication is a commutative option, so you can move these pieces around in any way that makes the most sense to you. So then we do a substitution. So we take the area of A, which is our triangle, okay? Sorry, that's what I should have had here. The area of A will equal 1/2, and in this triangle, the base, because this is a rectangle, is going to be 10 yards times the height of the rectangle or the triangle, which is 5 yards. Okay, and then we're going to do what's half of 10? That's 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So the area of A equals 25 yards square. Okay, then we move on to B. So part B is a rectangle. And you always have to identify your shape so you know which formula you're going to use to solve. And the formula for the area of a rectangle, so the area of B, will be base times height. You've also heard it length times width. It really doesn't matter. Base and height are used more frequently in every other shape, so I like to be consistent. So now we're going to do the substitution. So the area of B will equal the base, which is 10, times the height, which is 12. So the area of B will equal 120. And that's yards squared. And then to get the total area, it will be that 120 plus the 25, which is 145 yards squared. Okay, that's the guided practice. That's the scaffolded option. So basically, I took you through how we find the area for each part. We add them together to get the total composite area. Okay, on the back, you won't have these boxes, but you're going to be doing the exact same thing. So let's take a look at the second problem on this page. Again, it's scaffolded. It's asking you now, though, you actually have to break the figure up, so they're not doing it for you. And I'm just going to make a simple break here and here. I'm going to label this A, B, and C. And notice that the chart already is set up so we can find the three different areas. So shape across the board, these are all rectangles. Now, it could be that that middle one is a square, but the formula for the area of a rectangle works for both. And we don't know yet till we get all those dimensions in. So I'm just going to call them all rectangles. It'll get us the same place because a square is a rectangle. Rectangles aren't always squares, but squares are always rectangles. And the formula for the area of A equals base times height. In A, we know that the base is 5 and the height is 12. So the area of A equals 5 times 12. So the area of A equals 60 centimeters squared. Don't forget your units. It's a big deal. This is a specific area with context, and since we know that the units are centimeters, we need to make sure that our area is reflective of that. The area of B. Now, in B, we know the base. So we know the area formula for B will be base times height. And right now we know that the base is 8, but we don't necessarily know the height yet. So here's the deal. If this entire thing is 4, and we know that this is 4, and that's kind of it probably should be written there, and this is 4, then that makes these two pieces 8. Okay? So if these two make up 8, how much more do I need to make that whole 12? I need 4 more. So if I need 4 more, then my height is going to be 4. And the area of shape B is equal to 32 centimeters squared. Now if you look at the third rectangle, we know again that the area of C is going to be equal to base times height because it's a rectangle. The area of C is going to be the base, which is 5. And since these are the same, it's going to be times 12. So the area of C equals 60. And again, centimeters squared. Now to get the final area, we got to add them all together. So area of A plus area of B plus area of C will equal the total area. And area of A is 60, B is 32, and C is 60. So the total area ended up being 120 plus 32, which is 152. So 152 centimeters squared. Okay. Now we go to the back side. If you notice on the back, okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see each problem a little bit clearer. But on the back, I didn't give you any charts or tables or any of that kind of stuff to work through. And so we're going to have to do all that on our own. But don't forget that all those things are still required of you to do. So make sure that you do that, because that's what I'm looking for. You need all those pieces. So I'm going to break this little guy right here. Okay, and I'm going to call this one A and this one B. So A is a rectangle, and its area is equal to base times height. And let's work on what those things are. So the area of A equals, now the base here is going to be the same because it's a rectangle, so this is 2, times the height, which is 9. So the area of shape A equals 18 meters squared. Now let's go on to the area of shape B. Now this one's a triangle, and that formula is 1/2 the base times height. Remember that I have those formulas posted in my room, so you can refer to them anytime you want, and they're also going to be listed on any tests or quizzes. I'm not asking that you memorize them, just that you know which one to use and when, and how to substitute to use them. So then we go on. Now we got to figure all this stuff out. So if this entire side is 9 meters, right, because it's the same as this one, and this part of it is 5, how much would be left over here? That would make 4, okay? And if this entire side is 4, and this part of it right here is 2, that leaves 2 for this one. So the base is 2, and the height is 4. Half of 2 is 1, times 4 is 4. So the area of B is 4 meters squared. So the area of A plus the area of B will equal our total area. And A is 18 and B is 4, so it equals 22 meters squared is our final answer. Okay, now up to this point, everything we've done has required us to add together pieces to get a composite area. But in this particular problem, I suggest that we use subtraction, because we're really talking about a rectangle here, but it's missing this little triangular piece. So I think that's the easiest way to do this problem. So I'm going to call this A and this B. So the area of A will equal, again, base times height because it's a rectangle, 9.3 times 7.8. And remember, I've told you guys, you are allowed to have calculators. You cannot use phones because there's too many options for you to be looking things up that I don't want you to know. But you can use a calculator, even as simple as a dollar store calculator. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But I'm not expecting that you do all these calculations on your own. I don't use calculators very often in here because I want you guys to practice those basic math facts. But in this particular case, if it's going to hinder you from keeping the work going, we're going to use calculators for this unit. All right, so that would be what you get when you plug this into your calculator. And that's the area of A. Now the area of B is going to be 1/2 the base times height because it's a triangle. The area of B will equal 1/2. The base here is 3, we know that. Now we got to figure out, oh, no, not, the base is 7.8, sorry. 7.8, and the height is 3. I apologize for that, because the base is here. This 3 millimeters refers to that height. So half of 7.8 is equal to 3.9. So the area of B is going to equal 3.9 times 3, and that will give me a grand total of 11.7 millimeters squared. I should have put that up here too. And again, the grand total, now this is the difference. The total area will equal the area of A minus the area of B, because we took this whole rectangle and we're cutting this triangle out. So the area of A is 72.54, and the area of B is 11.7. And when you subtract that, you get 60.84 millimeters squared. Okay. In question number 5, we are looking at a kite. And in this kite, we've got a whole bunch of shapes we could break this down to. I'm going to use 2 triangles. So I'm going to use this one right here and this one right here. So this is what I'm going to call A, and this is B. Okay? So the area of A, since it's a triangle, will be half the base times the height. And in A, we're going to take half the base. Well, the base is this 4 plus this 4, making it 8, times the height, which is 3. So what's half of 8? That's 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. So the area of A equals 12 inches squared. Now the area of B is also half the base times the height, because it is a triangle. And our base is, again, the same, because now this is the bottom of our triangle, so it's 8. But the height this time is 6 inches. So the area of shape B is 4 times 6, which equals 24 inches squared. And I got the 4 because I took half of 8 and then times 6. Now the total area will equal, the area of A and the area of B. So the total area equals 12 plus 24, which equals 36 inches squared. All right, moving on to question number 6. Question number 6, I'm going to break this into 2 trapezoids because we do have formulas for that, but you could also break it up in different ways. I think this is your best bet, so they've already kind of broken it for you. This is going to be my A, and this is going to be my B. Now remember the formula for the area of a trapezoid. We're going to take the average of the bases and then multiply it times the height. So the formula for that can look like a lot of things, but half the height times the sum of the bases. And these fancy little B1s and B2s, just represents the first base and the second base, because there's 2 of them. There's one on top and one on bottom. Now keep in mind that at home you can rotate this paper any way you want so you can see those bases just a little bit better. Okay? That's the nice thing about having it on paper. You can rotate it in any direction that you need to make it make sense to you. Okay? So in this first trapezoid, the bottom base is 35 and the top is 28. So let's fill in everything we know. Half the height, which is 13, times the sum of the bases, which is 28 plus 35. So the area equals 1/2 times 13 times 28 and 35 together. And 35 is 63. And 63 times 13 is equal to 819. So area of A equals 1/2 of 819. Again, with a calculator, this makes this calculation really pretty simple. And then when you take half of that, you get that the area for the first trapezoid is 109.5 millimeters squared. Okay? Now we're going to move on to the area of B. Again, it's the same formula, and there's lots of different ways to write it. I don't care which formula you use. I've got multiples written on the board here, and there's multiples, I think, in your MSG, whichever makes the most sense to you. But in this particular one, we have the area of B will equal 1/2. The height this time is 28, and the bases are 25 and 35. So this is going to be 1/2 of 28 times, and again, 25 and 35 makes 60. So half of 60 is 30, and 30 times 28 is 840. So the area of B will equal 840 millimeters. So when you add the 2 together, you're going to get 1,249.5 millimeters squared. Okay. Going back now to number 7. Again, this is one of those problems that I would probably do subtraction on because that's the simplest. And I want you to notice if you have 2 triangles that are exactly the same, which in this case they are, together they make a rectangle. So you're taking half of them to get one of them, and then you're going to multiply it by 2. Kind of negates itself, but you can go any way that makes sense to you. So let's talk about this one. So we're going to start with A. B, I'm going to call it B1 and B2 because they're exactly the same. I don't have to find those measurements twice. So the area of A is a rectangle. It's going to be base times height. And the base here is 7 and the height is 3. So the area of the rectangle equals 21 inches squared. Okay. Now base or the shape B1 or B2, both of them, so the area of the B's is 1/2 base times height because again it is a triangle. So the area of B, either 1 or 2, is 1/2. The base in this case is 3 and the height is 2. And half of 2 is 1 and 1 times 3 is 3. So area of both of those triangles is going to be 3. So the total area is going to be 21 minus the 2 triangles, which are each 3. So it's really minus 6, okay, which will equal 15 inches squared. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. Number 8. Number 8 is 2 rectangles when we break it up, and you can break it up in one of 2 ways. You can break it here, or you can break it here. I'm going to choose to break it here. Here's A, and here's B. So the area of A is equal to base times height, because it's a rectangle. The base here we have to calculate. This part of it is 4.8, and this part of it is 3.2. So when you take 4.8 and you add 3.2, you get 8. So this whole length is 8. So the area of A equals the base, which is 8, times the height, which is 2.1. So the area of A is equal to 16.8 yards squared. Okay? And then, oops, this should be squared here. And then the area of B is also a rectangle, so it's base times height. The area of B is going to equal, again, we got to figure out the dimensions. So the base is 3.2, and the height we have to figure out. So if this entire thing is 6.4, and this part of it is 2.1, then we're going to subtract to get that this part of it is 4.3. And that times 3.2 is equal to 13.76 yards squared. Oops, that's just that one. And then when we add it to the 16.8 yards that we had for the other shape, our total area is equal to 30.56 yards squared. That's our final answer. Okay. Now we're going to move on to question number 9. Again, it's a matter of just breaking it up. It looks complicated until you start to break it up. I'm going to break it there. Now I could do one of 2 things. I can treat it as a trapezoid and a triangle, or I could treat it as 2 triangles and a rectangle. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to treat it as a trapezoid and a triangle, and I'm going to call them A and B. So the area of A is equal to 1/2 the base times height because it's a triangle. So our base in this triangle is equivalent to this, so 15, and the height was listed as 7. All right, so 15 times 7 is 105. Divide that by 2 because we're taking half of it. We get that the area of the triangle is 52.5 meters squared. The area of B is 1/2 the height times the sum of the bases. Again, you can look at this formula a lot of different ways. So the area of B is 1/2. Now the height of this trapezoid is 8. And the bases, so this one's 15. But this one is that 15 plus an extra 9. So 15 plus 9 is 24. Okay? So that means that the sum of those bases is 39 times 8 and then 1/2. And again, you can multiply these in any order, so I'm going to do that. 1/2 of 8 is 4, and 4 times 39 is 156. So the area of B equals 156 meters squared. Okay, and together, that plus the 52.5 we already found will mean that this is 208.5 meters squared. Okay, and then the final shape for today is this little guy, and I'm going to break it right here. So we have a parallelogram and a rectangle. So this is A and this is B. Now those formulas are exactly the same. The area of A is going to equal base times height. So base in this case is 6. This is 6. And height is 8, so that's 48. And the area of B will equal the base times height. Now here's the difference. In here, the base is 6, because in a parallelogram, remember, opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So the area of here, it's going to equal 6 times. Now the height, if this whole thing is 14, and this part of it is 8, that leaves this part to be 6. So the area of B is going to equal 36. And remember that the height in a parallelogram is always measured perpendicularly. It's measured this way, not along a side. So 36 and 48 make a grand total of 84 centimeters squared. And these should be centimeters squared as well. All right, guys, I hope that helps you solve problems for that involve composite shape. If you have any questions, come see me in class.